What's up, everybody? Eternal Fire here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Fury Warrior in patch 725. In this video, we're going to be looking at the stat priorities, the talent builds you can use, the single and AoE target rotation, and then we're going to be looking at the legendaries and the tier 24 set as well. With that said, let's get started. So looking first at stat priorities for the Fury Warrior can vary because based on the gear, your stat weights might change greatly. So if you're not into SimCraft or you don't know how to use it, I recommend loading your character onto a website called raidbots.com and it'll run your stat weights for you. However, as a general rule, your stat priority is going to look something like haste, mastery, versatility, strength, and then lastly crit. Again, that's haste, mastery, versatility, strength, and crit. That's kind of a general overview of your preferred stats. But again, if you go to raidbots.com, and I'll link it in the description, you can check out your own stat weights and see what's the best for you in the current gear that you have. Onto the talents. In the first tier, you have War Machine, Endless Rage, and Fresh Meat. Fresh Meat is the best talent to take if you have the tier 24 set. And it's a passive ability, and Bloodthirst has a 60% increased critical strike chance against targets above 80% health. So that goes really, really nicely, synergizes with your tier 24 piece. So if you're going to be doing a boss fight and the boss is going to be, above 80% health for a little bit, you're going to get a huge damage increase in taking Fresh Meat. If you're doing a boss fight with a lot of AoE and you're going with a more AoE build, or you're doing Mythic Plus dungeons, War Machine's a really good option. Otherwise, Endless Rage is just a good general option as your auto attacks generate a lot extra rage. In the next tier, we have Shockwave and Double Time. Double Time is just really good for mobility. And then you have Shockwave, which is a really good frontal cone stun. So this would be good for Mythic Plus, or say like Mr. Sazine, where there's a lot of ads and you need to be stunning them constantly. You could help the raid out, or you could help the group out in a 5-man. Otherwise, I would go with Double Time. In the next tier, we have Avatar, Outburst, and Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball is really good to use for multi-ad fights, as your attacks have a chance to make your next whirlwind deal 250% increased damage. So, that's just really nice to use, especially when you're using, when you're alternating between whirlwind and rampage, whirlwind and bloodthirst. It can increase your damage by a lot. So this is a great AoE talent to take. Avatar's going to be the best for single target damage. And then Outburst, Berserker Rage now causes enrage, and its cooldown is reduced by 15 seconds. So that's not really I don't think that's strong compared to the other two. Then down here we have Furious Charge, Bounding Stride, and War Paint. I like Bounding Stride the most in this talent as it lowers the cooldown of your Heroic Leap and makes you have a speed boost after you use it. Furious Charge is something you could certainly use while leveling. That's very valid. And then War Paint is really not a huge deal. In the next talent, or in the next tier, we have a few things. Massacre, Frothing Berserker, and Carnage. Frothing Berserker is going to be your go-to here. It's a passive ability, and when you reach 100 rage, your damage is increased by 15% and your movement speed by 30% for 6 seconds. So what this means is the way you're playing your Fury Warrior right now, you want to always make sure that you're getting to 100 rage. The thing we're dumping our rage on is Rampage, right? And the tricky thing, and the thing to really make sure you're watching for, and I suggest strongly getting either a UI where you can easily see a rage bar like I have here, or a UI, and we'll pull it up right here. I'm just going to minimize this really quick. Fury. See right here, my rage bar is right under my character. It's also built into the default UI, so you should be able to keep track of it. It just doesn't have the number. This has the number. The really, really important thing to remember is to let your character, your Fury Warrior, get to 100 rage. Rampage will start blinking and shining at you at 85 rage. So resist the urge to do so until you get 15 more rage, reaching 100 to get that damage buff. Because you're going to be getting this Frothing Berserker damage buff constantly as long as you let your rage get to 100. So you want to make sure you're doing that. Carnage, obviously, reduces the cost of Rampage by 15 rage. That's just not really beneficial compared to the damage increase of Frothing Berserker. And then Massacre is something you could certainly consider taking if you got the class ring, which gives you Massacre, and then you could use Frothing Berserker. In the next tier we have Bloodbath, Frenzy, and Inner Rage. Inner Rage is going to be your go-to here in most all situations. It basically makes it so Raging Blow now has a cooldown, but does a lot more damage. And then Bloodbath is something that you could consider taking for a pure AoE build. So you'd pop that every 30 seconds. So for 10 seconds, your melee attacks and abilities cause the target to bleed for 40% additional damage over 6 seconds. So, if you're using Wrecking Ball and Bloodbath, War Machine, that would be a really good AoE build. So then you have Blade Storm, which really shouldn't. It has no place in our rotation, and it's not very good for Fury compared to Reckless Abandon. Dragon Roar is also not something that I feel like should be a talent. So it should just be baked in if anything, but it doesn't do enough damage increase to outweigh the 2 seconds longer and generates 100 rage when you use Battle Cry from Reckless Abandon. So for a single target build in general, for single target, this is going to be the build that you want to use. You're going to want to use the Frothing Berserker, Inner Rage, Reckless Abandon. If you have the tier 24 set, you could use the same build but switch over to Fresh Meat. Okay, so that's a really solid tier 24 set piece, single target build right here. If you're going to be going a full AoE build, or say you want to use your single target build, but you're going to be getting a lot of ads, you could certainly use War Machine, and it's going to give you a very nice damage increase with the increased haste from the ads dying. Like if ads are like periodically spawning throughout a raid boss, that's definitely a talent you could take, and it would be beneficial. So a really good AoE build you can use, and it's a lot of fun to use, is Bloodbath, Wrecking Ball, War Machine, and I wouldn't even really go with Blade Storm, honestly. The extra 2 seconds and 100 rage generated from Reckless Abandon. Because another thing is Reckless Abandon, you get that 100 rage automatically when you hit Battle Cry, so you automatically, when you're in your Battle Cry window, get that Frothing Berserker buff as well. So this is what I would use for an AoE build right here. And that you're going to see really good results from. For now, we're just going to go back to our single target build. So now let's take a look at the 4 set. So your Bloodthirst the 2-piece says Bloodthirst critical strikes have a 50% chance to grant you Raging Thirst, increasing the damage of your Raging Blow by 50% for 8 seconds. So when your Bloodthirst crits, your Raging Blow is going to do 50% more damage for 8 seconds. Okay? Has a chance. And then the 4 set is Raging Blow increases the damage and healing of your next Bloodthirst by 50%, stacking up to 10 times. So basically, this doesn't really change your play style at all. You don't have to change the way you play your Fury Warrior to make this work. It's just going to be like work on its own. It buffs the abilities that you're going to be using anyway. You don't need to change your play style and prefer Bloodthirst over Raging Blow at any certain time. Just play the normal way you do, and you're going to get the damage increase from your 4 set. Again, that 4 set goes really nicely with Fresh Meat on a raid boss with a ton of health. You're going to want to use this like on progression or something when you need to put out the most damage as possible. And that's going to just synergize really nicely with Fresh Meat. If you don't have the 4 set, again, go with Endless Rage or War Machine if there's a lot of ads. So your best damage increasing legendaries for single target are going to be your helmet, your back piece. Your helmet is a rage generator, your legs are a rage generator, and your back piece is just a small damage increase. So those are going to be your 3 best single target legendaries to use. And also worth mentioning is the Soul of the Battlelord, which is our new legendary ring for warriors, new to patch 725, and it gives us Massacre, which we talked about. So you can use Massacre and Frothing Berserker. So that is something you could use if you have a serious execute phase. Definitely consider using that ring. Good survivability. Legendaries, in my opinion, is going to be the wrists and the neck. If you're doing something where you're going to be taking a massive amount of damage pretty regularly, those can help you survive. They're also good for questing. But your main damage increasing single target legendaries are going to be your helmet, your legs would both generate extra rage while you play, and then your back is a damage increase. And then for AoE, the waist is going to be your best legendary. So if you're new to the Fury Warrior, this is what the Fury Warrior is all about while you're doing damage. It's all about getting enraged if you're not enraged and doing your damage while enraged. So enrage is a passive ability, and Bloodthirst critical strikes will enrage you, increasing your attack speed by 100% and damage you take by 20% for 4 seconds. Okay? Rampage also enrages you and unleashes a series of 5 brutal strikes over 2 seconds for a total of X amount of physical damage. So basically, you want Bloodthirst to crit to get enraged, and also whenever you used Rampage, it's a guaranteed chance to enrage you. Then, the thing to remember is Frothing Berserker, and Frothing Berserker procs and gives you that damage increase when you reach 100 rage. So remember to hang on to Rampage until you have 100 rage for Frothing Berserker, and then use Rampage immediately, and then followed by a Raging Blow and Bloodthirst. But we'll get into the rotation later. The important thing to remember is that Bloodthirst critical strikes and Rampage both enrage you. And then your Mastery increases damage done while enraged by X amount based on your Mastery that you have. So those are really important things to remember as far as the Fury Warrior goes. Your main abilities are going to be Raging Blow, Rampage, Bloodthirst, and then Furious Slash only as a filler when the other abilities are down. And then Odin's Fury you're only going to use in your Battlecry window. Okay? So those are the most important things to remember. Rampage once you hit 100 rage, Bloodthirst on cooldown, Rampage on cooldown, Odin's Fury in your Battlecry window, and then Furious Slash as a filler when nothing else is available. This is all about staying enraged and using the Battlecry window to the best of your ability. So real quick about your cooldowns, if you have a talented avatar, which gives you a 20% damage increase for 20 seconds, it also removes snare, but we're not really typically going to be using it for a CC breaker. And then Battlecry, you let loose a Battlecry, granting 100% increased critical strike chance for 7 seconds. And when you have talented Reckless Abandon, it's 7 seconds and it generates 100 rage. If you do not have that talent taken, it is only for 5 seconds and you do not generate any rage, which could really screw up, your rotation and ultimately be a lot less beneficial. So we're going to go with Reckless Abandon. It's definitely the best one in this tier, like we said, and it's going to just increase the amount of time that you have Battlecry up, which means that you can fit in more abilities while Battlecry is active. Lastly, we're going to start with the rotation. What you want to make sure you're doing here, is always be using Potion of the Old War, and then hopefully you have some of those legendaries that give you extra rage, because that's going to really help you smooth out your rotation. But basically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to prioritize Raging Blow on cooldown, especially when you're enraged. Bloodthirst on cooldown to help you generate rage, and then Rampage only when you get to 100 rage, and then you use it immediately at 100 rage. And then you're going to Furious Slash only when those other things are not available. Now inside the Battlecry window, and I just want to clarify that we're going to keep this simple. There are a lot of if-then situations with the Fury Warrior Battlecry rotation, okay? But we're just going to keep it simple for the sake of, folks starting out or intermediate players. We're not trying to min-max right here. We're just trying to be proficient. And don't get me wrong, in doing what I'm about to say, you will get very good results from playing your Fury Warrior. So, we can worry about min-maxing later, but this is how you're going to be, very proficient with this rotation as kind of a, general go-to. So what you're going to do is you're going to pre-pot, you're going to charge in, you're going to Battlecry, which instantly gives you the 100 Rampage, then you're going to use Raging Blow, Odin's Fury, Bloodthirst, Raging Blow, and then I have to use Furious Slash because I don't have the rage generating legendaries. And then you see we have another 100 Rampage, Raging Blows up, Bloodthirst. Now we use a Furious Slash because we have nothing else available. And you should never have to use 2 Furious Slashes in a row. Okay? But that's how you want to do it. You want to use Battlecry, which is going to give you the 100 Rampage for 100 Rage for your Rampage. Use your Rampage immediately after Battlecry, followed by Raging Blow, Odin's Fury, Bloodthirst, and then Raging Blow again. You want to get 2 Raging Blow swings in while your Battlecry is active. That's your single target rotation. For your AoE target rotation, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to charge in, you're going to want to Whirlwind, Battlecry, 100 Rage Raging Blow, Whirlwind again, and then you can use your Bloodthirst, Raging Blow, and don't forget to use Odin's Fury in your Battle Cry window for AoE, because Odin's Fury is an extremely powerful AoE ability as well as single target. So just remember, Whirlwind before you Battle Cry. So Whirlwind, Battle Cry, 100 Rage Rampage, and then you can Odin's Fury, and then you could Whirlwind again to proc your Whirlwind Meat Cleaver, and then Bloodthirst, and then Whirlwind, and then at that point you could fit in a Raging Blow because you're going to have the buff from Bloodthirst at that time. So that's how you're going to want to do it. You're going to do that, Battle Cry, you get your 100 Rage, Raging Blow, Whirlwind again, Odin's Fury, Bloodthirst, and that, you know, that's how you want to do it. You want to try to mix as many whirlwinds in between your other abilities that you can, because whirlwind is going to do AoE damage, but it's also going to buff your other abilities and make them hit multiple targets as well. So that's why you want to use the Whirlwind, Battle Cry, Raging 100 Rage, Raging Blow, and then Whirlwind, you know, and Bloodthirst. You always want to use Whirlwind before you use Rampage and Bloodthirst, because that, you know, Whirlwind procs Meat Cleaver for Rampage and Bloodthirst. And you want to make sure that you fit Odin's Fury in that Battle Cry window as well. So that's how you do AoE. Now, Execute is very, very simple. You want to make sure that you use Battle Cry on cooldown, use Bloodthirst to get enraged, and in the Execute phase, we're not using Rampage because we want to spend all our rage on Execute. So you're going to Battle Cry, Bloodthirst to get enraged, and then you're going to just spam Execute. And then use Bloodthirst on cooldown to keep your rage up, okay? And other than that, just be using Bloodthirst outside of the Battle Cry window to pray for enrage procs. So your Bloodthirst would hopefully crit, and then you can enrage to keep executing while enraged. So again, your Execute phase, not using Rampage. You can use Raging Blow if you're really short on rage, because Raging Blow generates rage. But you just want to Battle Cry, Bloodthirst, Execute, 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 because the Juggernaut from your artifact trait, you want to try and get it as high as you can, as many stacks as you can, because that's where your Execute is going to come really powerful. And then let's just take a look at Massacre. Execute critical strikes, reduce the rage cost of your next Rampage by 100%. So basically this means, and this is really nice in the Execute phase, if you do have your class ring, when you take Massacre, if you crit with your Execute, it will make your next Rampage free. So at that point, you would replace Bloodthirst with your Rampage and hope for Execute crits, because then you can automatically enrage with Rampage guaranteed, and you're not using any rage to do so. So you just Execute, Execute, Execute. Okay, Execute crit. Now I can use Rampage. Now I'm enraged. Now I go back to executing. And then you'd use Bloodthirst to generate rage for your Executes. But that is the Execute window. So the Fury Warrior on the surface doesn't seem complicated, but in your Battle Cry window, depending on the legendaries you have, depending on the trinkets you have, it can get very complicated. This is an overall guide to be successful with pretty much whatever you have. Okay, so that is how you want to manage it. So we covered single target, AoE target, and then the Execute range for the Fury Warrior as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it helpful. If you did, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.